that. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group. I'm so glad that you're here with us. We're going to be talking about small business and how to keep your staff happy and keep them engaged. Debbie Elder is an amazing speaker, so I can't wait for her to get started. But first, I want to go over a little bit of the housekeeping items. We cannot see you or hear you, but we do encourage you to take part in the chat. Put any questions that you have or comments in the chat box, and I will be reading those out to Debbie as we go along. We would love to hear from you so that we know you're out there and we can help you if you have any concerns or questions or comments to add. Like I said, you're on mute. We can't see you or hear you, but we know you're out there, and we will be sharing this video once we're finished. We will also send our contact information so you can get in touch with us. So a little bit about Consolidated Planning Group. We are a holistic financial planning firm. We work as a team. So if you get one of us, you get all of us backing you up and taking care of you. We do all kinds of financial planning work, including investments, 401k rollovers, IRAs, annuities, things like that, life insurance, disability. And we do a lot of great work with the special needs community in terms of financial planning for families with special needs children. We just really are a collaborative group working together so that you get the very best service possible. So again, we're very thankful to have Debbie with us today. She is the owner of Shady Oak Primary School. She's an author. She even has a TED Talk that you can check out on YouTube. So Debbie, thank you for being here, and I will let you take over.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's so nice to be here. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited for this topic. It is a presentation I've done several times. It's always very well received, and people seem to really enjoy the content that's here. So I'm excited to get started. So we can go ahead to the first slide.
Great.
So we're going to talk about how to motivate your staff today. And I'm going to bring what I hope to you is some reminders and then also some fresh ideas. I've ran several businesses. Not all have been in education. And so I've had an opportunity to really sort of hone in on these skills that I want to share with you today, and to really hopefully give you some new ideas or maybe jog some memories of things that you've done in the past. You know, for a lot of us, we get very busy doing our job and we don't take time to really step back and reflect on what's working, what's not working. Why is this person late? Why can't I keep this position filled? And unfortunately, the only one that has the answers is the person we see in the mirror. So as leaders, and I know that's who we're on and talking with today, we have such a responsibility because we know when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And so we have some self-care responsibilities, and then we have the opportunity, and I believe also the need to be very clear on what it is we're building and establishing. So we bring in not only the right people, but we put them in the right seat on the bus, because we are a team. And I know all the businesses I've run have also been collaborative teams, Michelle, like you mentioned, because when I hire, if you don't bring a skill set that I don't already have, I'm not that interested. I don't care how wonderful of a teacher you may be, but I'm really looking for diversity and for people who can bring and do things that I can't. I'm very clear on what I can do, and I'm also very clear on what I don't do well. So I like to surround myself with people who are hopefully smarter than me and bring in skill sets and talents that I don't currently possess, so that together we're better. We can go ahead to that first slide. So hiring well, as I mentioned, is very important. And I know you're probably thinking, Deb, I agree with you, but it's so hard right now to hire. So much so, I'm back in the classroom because I haven't found a teacher to fill a spot that's open. So we have to make in our businesses, yes, we want to work on our business and not in it. And as I say that, I'll be back in the classroom as soon as I'm done this webinar, but that's okay, because I'm looking at it as an opportunity to reset and to really meet some needs that were not being met in the past, which is why that individual has not returned. And I think that's a good thing. I think sometimes as owners, being able to step back in and really observe and see what's going on. I know during the pandemic, I had a teacher out for a month, and I stepped in, and it was really a good check-in to see, were they doing what I asked them to do? Was I clear in my instruction? Were the students actually retaining and learning what I wanted them to learn? So I encourage you to do that and to really make sure you're keeping a pulse on what's happening. No micromanaging, but at least being involved. So as we have on the screen here, it's not always about the resume. I've hired some great resume bearing people who didn't really work out culture wise, and I've hired some people whose resume was maybe not as fulfilling as someone else's, but who were eager and coachable and willing to learn on the job and really had a heart for what we were doing and really captured my vision. Because I know as a business owner, I have a very clear vision and I know where I'm going. And I really need my people, my staff, to capture that vision and be willing to work towards my mission also with me. So they have to be able to understand that. They also have to really add, as I mentioned, to the team that we have in place. Otherwise, one of us is redundant. I used to work at a college planning firm, and we did our DISC assessment, which is just one of those many behavioral style assessments that are out there. I like DISC. I'm a certified trainer in the DISC program. So we went out and we did our discs and we came back. And I distinctly remember riding up to the 22nd floor in the elevator, and we had swapped papers, and I was revealing his and he was revealing mine. And as we reviewed them, we realized, oh my gosh, we are identical. I was him in a female body. He was me in a male body. And I turned to him and I said, I think one of us is redundant. Now, it turned out we had, although very different behavioral styles, we had a lot of similarities. As the disc told us, we were able to divide and conquer the city of Houston very effectively. And it was just a really great learning experience. So if you haven't had an opportunity to do that or have your staff do that, this is a great tool to give you some insight as to where people fit on the bus. We also use the Love Languages by Chapman, and you can do a really quick online quiz to help you determine what your love language is. And that is such a great communication ability that really enhances the ability of the whole team to communicate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. And then the last thing I have up here is, do you like them? Because let's face it, we spend a lot of time with our staff, in a lot of cases, more time than we do with our family. And I know you can't pick your family, but you can pick your staff. I love stand-up meetings. Thank you for knowing exactly when to switch that slide, Michelle. You're awesome. So this is something that I do a lot of networking. It's a little bit different in these times, but I have done a ton of networking. And I love to also belong to masterminds. And if you're not familiar with that term, a mastermind is when you get together with people and you have a common interest, which is to help each other to grow in their business or their personal lives. I've been always in masterminds for business. And I like to be in masterminds with people who are not in education, because I like to learn what they're doing in different industries. And then I like to steal it and bring it into my industry. And this is an example of an idea that I borrowed from software development companies, because they often meet in the morning and they have a stand-up meeting and then they disperse and go do their stuff. So at my school, we meet every morning for 30 minutes and talk about the day. We talk about maybe student issues that are coming up, maybe events that are happening. We have had a couple of young ladies on staff who are on Bumble and those dating sites, and we did get to hear some entertaining stories about their dating life, which was always entertaining and very fun. And it really allows us to not only run a very well-oiled machine, but to really bond as a group, because we're spending that time together and we're invested. I don't want you late for that meeting. That is a very important, non-negotiable meeting that really allows us to share information. I always like to read to my staff in the mornings. Currently, we are going through a book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principles, and we'll read through it and discuss it. Some of it is a quick reminder of things we already know. For some of our younger staff, it's a brand new perspective on how to look at life. And so those are really fun things. They bring up different things that we can discuss. It also allows me to have the opportunity to listen to my staff. This is a time when they can come and share ideas, especially this year when I'm in the classroom. I'm not as available during the day as I used to be. It's not like they can just grab me at lunch and we can have a coffee and they can tell me what they're thinking. So this really allows this time to be very valuable to them, where they're able to say, hey, Deb, I would like to, purchase this, or I'm thinking of trying this in the classroom. Can I have your permission? Is that okay with you? And to exchange ideas. And I really, really strongly recommend this. If you can figure out how to do this in your business, and maybe you have your meeting at the end of the day, but connecting with the people you spend your time with in a spirit of improvement, in a spirit of reflection. We do a lot of events over the year, everything from a field day to a field trip to Grandparents' Day, and we record diligently everything about that, right down to, I know if I have 47 grandparents coming, how many ginger snap cookies I need to buy and how much lemonade. And it's not because we don't like to waste our time, and we like to get it right. And we learn every time we do that. And I think it's really important that if you're not putting in strategies into your business to help you refine your processes and your skill sets, you really need to do that. One of my friends, they own a dental office and they have what they call a run book. We don't call it that in education, but basically I call mine my, what if I get hit by a bus book? So that the business can continue to run. It's also a great thing to have when you're looking at your exit strategy. So you have something to physically hand the new owner. It really ups the value. And that's a discussion for another webinar, but it's just something to keep in mind with your processes. We can move on.
What was the name of that book again? I'm going to go ahead and type it into the chat so that if anybody wants that book, they can look here.
Sure.
The Success Principles.
It is called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield.
Okay, everybody, that's in the chat. So if you want to write that down, you can. And here is your next slide. There you go.
Jack Canfield is the chicken soup for the soul guy. He's one of that partnership. Great speaker. I got to meet him in Hollywood at my book launch. So that was super fun. Very nice man. So let's talk a little bit about incentives. We all like to be incentivized. We all like to think we're internally motivated and intrinsically motivated. And I'm sure we are. But everybody likes to be acknowledged and validated. And I think that's a really big part. I will share with you one of the things that we use here is called the nurtured heart approach. And that is an approach of communicating with, we use it with children, but it's just as effective with employees, with your family, with your spouse, with anybody you need to communicate with. And it's really about looking for the greatness in another person and recognizing their greatness with very specific words. Why does that work? Because when Michelle tells me what a great speaker I am and how she loves my trainings, you know what? I go above and beyond for Michelle because she validates the effort and the work that I put into what I'm doing. Your employees will respond exactly the same way. So we all know that praise in public, and if there's a problem, to do that in private. But I really think you can really take praise. Sometimes they're like attaboy praises, like, hey, way to go. That was a great job. You did awesome. If you take it one notch up and start to really describe specifically what they did that you really liked. Let me give you an example. The new teacher that I've brought on board, who is in training right now, is the first on campus. She's here before me in the morning and typically is the last to leave. And so I sent her a text last night acknowledging both of those and also commenting on the way that she's been able to build relationships with the students, how she's learning a new skill of assessing reading, and how she's adapted and learned to do that and used resources amongst our staff to really perfect what she's doing. It took me about 4 minutes and it changed her evening. And she said to me this morning, do you know, I've had lots of jobs and nobody's ever taken the time to tell me those things unless it was at an annual review. And even then it's kind of glossed over. So this is one of the easiest things you can do as owners and as business developers is really, really nurture the greatness in your staff, because the more you expose the greatness, the more you get of it. The more you expose the negativity, well, I'm not saying you get more of it, but you build up resentment and that loyalty factor starts to dwindle a little bit. So just something to keep in mind. Some of the incentives that we use effectively here is I give my full-time staff 1 day off a quarter. As I mentioned earlier, that's my opportunity, except for right now, but that was my opportunity in the past and will soon be again, to step into the classroom and really check in with the students and make sure what I think is going on is in fact going on in those classrooms. So it has two purposes. I like to bring in professional trainers. I belong to an alliance, as I said, I like to network, of private schools in the Fort Bend County area here in the Houston area. And we meet and we share our expertise with each other, so much so that I've gone in and trained, because I don't consider the other school owners my competition. We're very collaborative. We all have done a really good job of sort of sketching out our niche. And so I know when a family comes to me and they're not the right fit for my business, I know exactly how to help them get their needs met. You don't think that helps me grow my business? Oh, it sure does. Last year at the end of the year, we had 6 new students. 4 of them came from referrals from other school owners. So it really helps to be very clear on your why, what you're delivering, let everybody know, and then help them to be your ambassadors. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, Michelle, in just a few minutes. You can provide lunch, pick up coffee, bring in an on-site trainer, have a movie day if that fits in. Maybe you get together on a Saturday night and you show a movie with one of those blow-up screens that you can rent very easily. Again, you're just doing some things that are bonding, that allow each other to get to know the other people that you're spending so much time with as a person, right? Yeah, I'm a school owner, but I'm also a human being and a grandmother and a wife and a mother and an aunt. You know, I am many things. And so to just put me in a one-dimensional box as a school owner really doesn't do me or the people I'd like to help any favors. You can have a wall of fame. You see that at HEB or any grocery store you go to where they have the employee of the month, or maybe they get a special parking spot. Again, they all seem very small and minor, but we know from research that incentives don't always come from money, right? A lot of times it's recognition and being validated and appreciated for all the little things that they do. Written notes of appreciation is something I do all the time. I'm a big believer in gratitude. In fact, a lot of my marketing is gratitude marketing. One of the things that we do as business owners is we concentrate on the next new thing. I want to encourage the people on this webinar to really remember where your golden goose is, and it's in the clients you currently serve. And how are you serving them? And how are you turning them into your ambassadors? How are you ensuring that the languaging they're using to describe you is exactly what you want? How are you helping them to mold their testimonials that they're giving when they're at the ballpark to talk about their great financial advisor and how you should use them too? Are they saying what you want them to say? And a lot of the ways you can do that is to remind them how important they are to you. And I've done some really, really sappy stuff, but it works. So there's a coffee shop that's a couple of blocks down from here, and it's owned by one of my parents. So I went and bought a whole bunch of gift cards from them. And I just wrote, thank you, So Latte, for your support. I mean, it was bad. But here's parents get randomly in the mail a couple of coffees on me, just thanking them for just being, not doing anything, just being a member of our community. And all of a sudden, there's a lot of talk on campus. It was just, and it took very little time. And we scheduled it out. I didn't send them all out on one day because that doesn't have the same effect. And it was also what appeared to be very random to them. No, you were perfect. You are reading my mind, Michelle. I love this. Next slide.
Well, I'm sorry about that. And I will go back to the next slide, but I wanted to say one thing as a small business owner that I try to do. You know, everybody's on Facebook and sharing their very best lives and bragging about their successes. And what I like to do is pay attention. And when somebody is bragging about a success on Facebook, I go ahead and send them a handwritten note to congratulate them. And I think it just means so much, these little notes of appreciation. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know what? You know, they say the last mile of success is pretty wide open. Well, there's so many little things. And I've set a goal for myself. You may know this, but Mary Kay from the original Mary Kay Cosmetics, she sent out 5 thank you notes a day. She was an incredibly successful woman. And, you know, the written form of communication in that type of mailing a letter, I mean, we go to our mailboxes now and we just get bills, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing fun. So this is such a way to brighten someone's day and to be so memorable, which we all want to be as business owners. Idea bounties are...
You get a personal mail.
Yes, right? Isn't that awesome? And I don't like to hand deliver it. I could easily put a note in a student's backpack. I spend the 50 cents and throw it in the mail, and it comes through the mail. That makes so much more of a better impression. So idea bounties are awesome. So Google, as you probably are very aware, allows their employees 20% of their time to be inventive, right? To come up with ideas. So you could do the same. You know, there's all these stories, and I'm sure you've heard them, of big corporations, right? Bringing in these consultants to find out why the line isn't working fast enough. And all the consultant does is talk to the guy running the line. And the guy says, well, if you just tell him to do this, it would work. So the consultant walks back up the many, many stairs to the head office and says, here's what I think you should do. Well, if the CEO had walked down to the line and asked his employee, he might have saved himself a lot of money. So idea bounties allow the people doing the job to be rewarded for coming up with ideas to either do the job quicker, better, faster, whatever. That really should be rewarded. And it could be something as simple as, I know here we have a my favorite things sheet that I have all of my staff fill out. And so when I give you a gift or an incentive, it has meaning. Not everybody wants a linen scented candle. Some other people would like chocolate. So I want to give you what you want once you tell me what that is. So that works. We mentioned VIP parking, point systems. We've done that very successfully with our staff and also with our students. That has allowed them to, again, until you can internalize your ability to be very willing to be accomplished, sometimes a little outside help will help. So with some of my younger employees, working on some kind of merit system has been very helpful in the past. Peer-to-peer recognitions, encouraging my staff to encourage each other. It doesn't have to just come from me. When you're working in partners, being able to be in a culture where it's okay to say, I messed up, or thank you so much for helping me, or thank you for allowing me to meet my quota by helping me close this. I know you could have been working on your next client and still you took the time to help me with mine. And I think that culture is super important to me. We celebrate birthdays and anniversaries here. I think they're a big deal. I like to spend time one-on-one with my staff when I'm not in the classroom, which will change after Christmas. We do Secret Santas, which is super fun. DIY trophies are just little things that we've made. Again, just another way to recognize. I'm a big reader. I like my staff to read, so it's not uncommon for me to find a book that I like and to share that with my staff. Sometimes I strongly encourage them to read it. Sometimes I simply gift it and allow them to make that decision on their own. And then I like to have lunch with them. We've talked about recognition, so we can go on to the next slide. So cooperative management is really important. For those of you that aren't familiar with Simon Sinek, you need to be. He's all over YouTube. He's written several books. And ladies, he's not too hard on the eyes. I'm just going to tell you that right off the bat. That always helps, right, Michelle? So he has...
Let me go ahead and get that name again so I can put it in the chat and make sure I can look him up later.
Simon, so S-I-M-O-N, Sinek, S-I-N-E-K.
S-I-N-E-K.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
He tells a story that Nelson Mandela told about leaders speak last. And what that story was about was Nelson's father used to travel to all these different tribes and they would discuss how they were going to manage their areas and really important tribal things. And his father always spoke last. And Nelson said, why do you do that? And his reasoning to Nelson was, so if the leader walks in and says, I got this great idea, I think we should do X, Y, and Z, what do you all think? Well, guess what they all think? They think your idea is great, even if they don't. But if you say, we need to look at how we're doing X, I'd love to hear from all of you. And then you listen, but no facial expressions. Don't be doing this or no. You just listen, you digest the information, and then you speak last and make your decision. So it's a great way to hear from your employees without putting any chains on them or any expectations. Number one, in really large print is no micromanaging. I don't like to be micromanaged. I run an elementary school. My students have so much free voice and choice here because I want them to be able to make decisions. My staff knows they can spend up to a certain limit without asking me, and it'll be reimbursed, right? You have to be willing. If you're not hiring well, going back to the beginning, then shame on you. But once you get them on your team, you got to let them shine. And boxing them in, not only does it frustrate them, because it would frustrate me, it also really diminishes their ability to be inspired. And that's not what we want. We really want to listen to encourage their creativity and really encourage it. You can't just give it lip service. I really like when I ask my students, for example, for input to make sure I implement their suggestions. And I tell them, I can't implement every suggestion, but you better make sure I implement as many as I can. Otherwise, why would they work my problems for me? Why would your employees work your problems for you if every time they do, they don't get any feedback or they don't see any changes? One of the things I do a lot of work, Michelle, in ISD, so public schools, going in and working on culture, because that's kind of what I'm known for, is building really strong culture. And what we see and hear in public schools is they do their lesson plans. And I know you were a teacher, and I'm sure people on this call, they weren't a teacher, they went to school, and you have to submit lesson plans. And what was so disturbing and discouraging to these teachers is they do all this work for their lesson plan, submit it, and they never got the impression anybody ever read it. So it was like checking the box, right? And I know for me on my campus, if we're teaching something, it must meet two requirements at a minimum. It must be meaningful and it must be purposeful. And I would say the same to managing your employees. If you're asking them to do things, ask yourself, why? Why are we doing that? When I took over the business, I had my then assistant walk me through all of their processes. And my question was, why do you do that? And some of them, she was very clear. And I went, okay, that's a good reason. We will continue with that. And some of them, she couldn't give me an answer. She didn't know. And it reminded me of a story, and you might have heard the story about the woman who cuts the end off the roast. And her friend asks her why she does that. And she doesn't know why she does it. Long story short, she calls her grandmother. Her grandmother's like, don't you remember, honey, that little oven I used to have? I had to cut the end off the roast to get it to fit in. And here she is in this beautiful mansion cutting the ends off a rope. So we do things because others did them. And if we don't take time to revisit that, you lose a lot of improvement opportunities, right? So allow your staff to play to their strengths. Not everybody you hire should come in, as I mentioned, with the same strengths. So why does everyone expect to do the same job, right? So if you've got somebody, I know my assistant currently is the yin to my yang. She is so detailed and so able to figure stuff out. No matter what I give her, she can do it, and she does it super well, really quick. I mean, she's amazing. And no, you can't have her. She's mine. But I'm a big picture thinker, and I can hand the big idea to her and she'll break it down and organize it for me. To not allow her to do that and to not allow her to play with all her office supplies, she would be miserable. She loves that stuff. Me, not so much. So you want to make sure you're allowing your staff, if they don't already, to really get to know themselves and to really have self-awareness, and then to develop their strengths as you help them recognize what those may be. Regular feedback fits into that. We use SWOT analysis, which are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your obstacles or your threats. And I think those are really helpful for me anyways, when I'm sitting down with a staff member, just to put a framework around the discussion, right? I'm not a big believer in complaining. In fact, one of the things that I do when I talk to my new parents at orientation is I let them know that is grounds for dismissal from my school. If you have a complaint or a beef with myself, my staff, or the process, and you go talk to your neighbor or you go talk to one of the other parents here, you haven't solved the issue. You're complaining, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. If you come to me, I can solve the problem because I'm the one who makes those decisions. So it's really about also teaching people how to treat you. And as leaders, we need to model that, so that our staff can see that in action as much as we tell them to do that. So again, just to wrap up what Simon Sinek said, as leaders, we speak last. We can move on to the next slide. So when we build, I'm gonna have to move here we go, purposely build your culture. So culture, as I mentioned earlier, is really, really important to me because I want my staff, I want my clients who are my students and my parents to feel very secure and safe so that they can be who they are, right? We all came to this earth with purpose. I want to be able to extract as much of that purpose as I can, right? To help me build my business as you do. And you want to give them an environment where that can be nurtured and can grow for them. So offer opportunities for staff meals, get to know their families, I like to host different events. We're going to have a barbecue. We're going to a baby shower for one of our employees. And we all come out and we bring our spouses. And in fact, my daughter has been invited to one of my staff members' baby showers. I mean, that's how connected we are because we like to help each other and use our resources. And that's a great way to do it. You're not one person with your family and you're the same person. So this whole idea about not mixing the two is not something that I agree with. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just going to share with you my suggestions and my opinions on that. But getting to know your people for people and not just employees really helps to build loyalty. And it also helps with understanding. If my staff are going through a personal issue, and if I can help in any way, or if I can provide a little bit of opportunity for them to maybe come in a little late because there was an issue with the child, or I want to be able to do that. And I can't do that if you're not telling me about what's going on with you. So socializing is important. We love to have meals out together and just have fun, right? To build those fond memories, because sometimes life at work is hard. And being able to fall back on that connection and that you really trust your coworkers can really get you through those tough times. And that's what I'm looking with my positive cultures to build. And my families watch us. They watch how much fun we have with each other. They watch how much fun we have with the kids. And people will say when they come to the school, gosh, I just love the energy I feel here. Well, that's not because it's blown out of a diffuser, right? That's because that's how we are. We can go to the next slide, Michelle. So this is a really great slide. There's a lot of information that we can talk about on this slide. And I want to just make sure that we have a little bit of time here. So we're going to go through the wheel and talk about different things that are really important. So number one, communication. And I could do a whole presentation on just communication, but getting to know each other, understanding love languages, understanding how others like to be communicated to. There's a thing, Michelle, called the platinum rule, where there is the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would like to be done unto. But the platinum rule takes that one step further. And it's do unto others as they want to be done unto. In other words, paying attention to what somebody else and how they like to receive information, how they like to receive criticism or suggestions, and saying it in the language that they hear. Maybe not the language you want to hear. It's not about you all the time, right? It's about getting your message across. Setting the tone is also really important. How do you want your place of business to be known as? How do you want people to feel? How important is it to you how they dress? And are you setting clear expectations? For example, I know when I tell anybody I interview, what's really important to me is being on time. In fact, I almost take it as a personal disrespectful move for you to show up late, because it's telling me that my expectations are not important to you, and that's a problem. So setting that tone requires really, really good clarity. And I would encourage any of you, if you haven't done this recently, to really sit down and think about what is important to me. What is it that I want? And to revisit that on a regular basis. You don't just do it once when you open your business and let it go, right? You need to keep coming back to that. Giving coaching and being able to provide constructive feedback is another role that we as leaderships need to do in order to be excellent. And hiring people that are willing to receive your coaching is a big piece of what you need to be looking at in the hiring process. Self-management is super important. I think we model for our employees what we believe to be important. And I believe that it is my job to set the tone when I come in the mornings. And so I do a lot of things before I ever leave my house to get mentally ready to be my best self when I come to work each day. And that's everything from doing scripting, which is setting out and physically writing my intentions for the day. I'm very careful about what I listen to in the morning. I might listen to a podcast about excellence. I might listen to a podcast about efficiency, and then being able to come in and share that. Maybe it's uplifting music on the way into work. Maybe you love comedy and you like to laugh, so do that. Whatever you need to do. The other thing that's important is that you manage and provide yourself with self-care so that you are in good shape, that you are eating well, that you have lots of energy, and that you stay healthy. Coaching and development, they need to see you going out and taking courses and improving what you do and always gathering the next skill set. I know for me, because of my industry, I spend every summer learning something new, something I can implement into the school, something that I can improve upon that will make the experience here even better. And with that commitment to improvement, you have to be constantly developing, right? Whether you're taking a course through Linda or you're watching something on YouTube, I just highly recommend you put that into your day. Being decisive, super important if you're the leader. Very difficult to be indecisive and be in a leadership role. And I know for me anyways, indecisiveness is something that is really hard for me to be around. And knowing that about myself, I'm able to take measures to ensure it doesn't happen. But one of the reasons why we give not only our employees here, but also our students a lot of voice and choice is so they learn the ability to make decisions. If my staff has to come to me for every decision that they make, then shame on me for hiring staff that don't have the ability to take instruction and follow through. So something just to think about. Courage and risk is really important. And I want my staff to take risks. I also want to be able to take risk and bring them along with me in that. So another thing when I'm hiring is I don't hire in a silo, right? I don't meet the person, make my decision by myself. One of the steps that I have is that you, as a possible employee of mine, must go and meet all of my staff. And I want you to ask difficult questions. So what does she really like to work for, right? And I want a new employee to be interviewing me and my staff as much as we're interviewing them, right? Because when you're building that team, it's important. Being able to know what your risk factors are and to stay within that guidelines, but to have some wiggle room and being able to encourage them to do so, because that's when the cool things happen, right? That's when you get the new inventions. That's when you get the new crazy ideas that maybe you stole from another industry and you bring into yours that is just, changes what you do like earth-shatteringly, right? Or where other industries are like looking at you and wanting to take your right. So it's just being courageous is super fun. And it allows you to stay interested because I don't ever want to get bored because when I get bored, I'm done, right? And the whole reason I'm not retiring is because I need a lot of stimulation. I need to keep busy. So relationships and power are important, making sure you're sharing the power. Again, going back to not micromanaging, I think it's super important that you are allowing them to feel that they have an equal say. Yes, my staff realize that I have the last say in most things, but that I don't want to discourage them from having opinions and to come forward. We have very opinionated staff, which I love, right? And they're very willing to share with me and also willing to accept my decision when it's final. Innovation and change, super important. I like to stay very cutting edge. The world of education is so incredibly behind. They haven't changed public schools in 129 years. So it's really easy to be innovative in this environment, which I really enjoy and take as a challenge. And then planning and visioning is super important. I'm big on planning. I'm big on reflection, as I mentioned. I'm really good at looking back and seeing what worked and what didn't work because I actually fill out, as I mentioned, those event forms. I don't do an event or do anything new without recording exactly that and writing down the hard stuff so that we can continue to grow. I don't ever want to get stagnant, and I don't want any of you to get stagnant. So this will allow you to do that. I know when we wrote our mission statement, it was a very collaborative process and one that we revisit annually to make sure that's still our mission. It's okay for the mission to change as long as that's what you want. We'll go ahead and hit the next slide. So having regular one-on-one meetings with your staff, again, if I don't get to have time with leadership, if I don't get to have time as an employee to really have my bucket filled by things that I can do or not do, or that I'm doing well, it's really easy to change my priority about what I bring to the workplace. My staff is also encouraged. I know you have personal issues. I know we all have stuff that goes on, but they need to stay on the doorstep when you're coming into work. And it's not that I don't want to know about them or help you with them, but we are professionals and we have a job to do. And then we'll figure out how to deal with the stuff that may be preventing you from being your best self at work. Maintaining that upbeat attitude. And we talk often about what do you need to maintain that? How many hours of sleep do you need? That for me, sleep's a big deal. And I get a lot of it, but I get up very early in the morning and I have my quiet time. I'm very clear on when I'm living my best life, what I'm doing. And so giving staff an opportunity to, one, be asked those questions, and then two, give them time. We do staff meetings and staff trainings. I like to give my staff equal time in those meetings to plan, to do some self-discovery, because if they know who they are, it only benefits me. And then to give some instruction or training in something new. And that's sort of how we set up our staff meetings. And I like that those three things are being sort of hit upon. I also ask what's important to them. What do you want to spend some training on? What do you feel that maybe you're getting a little rusty in, or maybe you heard one of your teacher friends or one of the other people that works in the same industry has learned a new skill and you'd like to learn it. I want to make that available to them. I also think it's important that you create an inviting space. So when I took over the school, one of the rooms was kind of junky, and it was like a storage room, and it didn't have any good juju, as my assistant would say. So I went in there and I pulled everything out and I redid the walls and made it kind of an area that people could go and work in, students could work in. It just, again, back to that energy, it just felt very inviting and very welcoming. And I think if you want the best from your people, then that's what it needs to look like. And it needs to reflect a little bit of your personality so people can understand who they're working with and sort of what some of the things that are important to you. Whether you bring clients into your office, they really need to know. I have a wall that I've now brought to 3 different businesses with me, and it's literally a wall of framed sayings and just things that are important to me. And they're when you walk into my office and see that, you just learned so much about me in a very short period of time. And I think that's really important, to let a little bit of yourself into your environment to help with communication. Because if you walk into my office and you understand DISC, you know I'm a director the minute you walk in because of the way it's set up. And if I walk into another one of those behavioral styles, I can tell all 4 styles by simply walking into their office, by how they display things. So it's a great ability to formulate opinions to allow you to initially connect and build that rapport. Because in doing business, if I don't build rapport with a parent who's coming for a tour, the chances of closing that deal are lost, right? So ways to build rapport is to kind of put yourself out there as who you are and start there, and then build the connection as they find things. They'll say to me, oh, I love that you have this in your eye. I collect the same thing, or I love these sayings. And now we have somewhere to start. Ongoing training is really important. If you expect your business to grow, you need to develop your people, and you need to be willing to put money into the development of them. Sometimes it's an incentive to take an online class or to go and be trained somewhere else, or maybe you want them to get their MBA and you want to match them on their cost for that. I know as small business owners, we have limited resources that are financial, but I have so many ideas in my head of ways to help. And I'm a big barterer. So if I know another trainer like myself is a great trainer in an area that I don't train in, I will barter services. I'll train their staff, they train my staff. So don't be afraid to step outside of the conventional box and really look at different ways. I mean, we live in such a digital society right now that getting training inexpensively, there's no excuse, people. Get your employees trained and keep them excited, right? Nobody wants to be doing something that gets very stagnant, and allow them to have some spontaneity. And when you get trained and you get passion and you reignite that fire, oh my gosh, that's where you see the secret sauce coming into your businesses. So we can go on. Support your staff, listen to them, really support their decisions. If you're going to ask them to give you input, as I mentioned earlier, make sure you're hearing it, you're clarifying back, you're asking questions that allow you to truly understand where they're going with it and why they want it to think it's important, or why they want you to make those changes. Empower their contributions. It's really important, and it's not uncommon for me to write the same acknowledging thank you notes to my staff as it is to a student, as it is to a parent, as it is to a colleague. So I think those are really important. And if you want somebody to continue the behavior they're doing, acknowledge it. You want to I just lost the word. Put out when you you know what I'm saying. When you want to like blow out the candle, then stop acknowledging how great they are, because that will, it's hard to stay upbeat. Distinguish, there we go. Thank you. Extinguish. It's really hard to keep giving 100% if you don't feel anyone's noticing, right? Just imagine you go on this great diet and you're losing weight and everybody's telling you how great you're doing, and then you plateau and you hear nothing. That's when we cheat, right? Because we're not getting, unless we're super disciplined, and I think we all are to an extent, but knowing that, I know right now one of my staff is on a diet. I'm not going to bring donuts to work. That's just rude, right? So being able to have that level of understanding and sharing with your staff is important. Be willing to learn from them. As I said, I like to be the least smart person in the room, and I like to learn, and it may not be what I hired them to do, but I have talented staff that do crazy things out in the community that I learn from them every single day. And I really try to embrace their uniqueness, and I really honor it by trying to bring people that are not redundant onto my staff, so that we can really have all of these skill sets that together make us unstoppable, and really a powerhouse of people that are striving towards the same vision, because that's really important. And if they don't believe in my leadership, they're not going to follow me. And I think if we want to get our businesses to the next level, there's a couple of things we need to do. So just to recap, it's really important that you hire very well, because you are nothing without your employees and you can't grow without them. You need to know your numbers, right? You need to know when you can bring on another employee and how to balance that. I know that's something Michelle can help you with. I think it's important that you are reflecting and taking the time to really evaluate what's working. Just because it worked in your business last year doesn't mean it's something that gets to move forward with you. So take the time to reflect. In fact, we teach our students here, they have reflection journals. They reflect every day. What worked in math? What didn't? What worked in art? What didn't? And that's how we grow, and that's how we learn. And I also really like to have an environment where failure is not only okay, but encouraged. Because if we don't fail, I told my students yesterday, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough, right? If you're just like coasting along, that's not what I want. I want somebody that's willing to sort of go to 100% every day and have some pride in what they're doing. We talked a little bit about being an ambassador in the community and turning people into your ambassadors. One of the reasons that I built my businesses all very quickly is because I go out and speak, and I speak a lot. And I like to give people enough information about what we do here, so they now are my ambassador and can go out and spread it to places I would never get an opportunity to. So anytime you're using speaking to build your business, make sure you're giving enough of your core values and what you stand for to your audience member, and then give them permission to take it and go with it. People will do as you ask. People love to help. Oh my gosh, they're so amazing. So make sure you're very clear on how they can help you, both your clients and your employees. So this is me up on the screen in a day where it's not humid and my hair didn't fall out, but it's very humid here in Houston today. So this is how you can contact me. If I can be of any help with you, I do a free 30-minute consultation where we can sit down and talk about anything in your business that you would like to unpack and maybe look at a little bit closer. I do a lot of trainings and speaking. I'm happy to come into your port of business if you think something I offer would be of value. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I've really enjoyed this. This has been super fun. And I'll turn it back over to you.
It has been such a pleasure listening to you today. I love your ideas and how you think outside of the box, and the examples that you give to help really drive those home. I really enjoyed your talk today, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
For coming out today. So we are financial planners, and I've been working with Debbie to try to bring more small business owners to our company so that we can help with your financial planning needs. Now, there's a lot that you have to think about in terms of personal financial planning, and those are some of the things on the screen. Do you have a comprehensive financial plan? Do you have a will, a trust set up for your children? If you have special needs children, do you have supported decision-making or guardianship or a third-party special needs trust set up for them. So we really want to help you and your family. We also like to work with businesses. Basically, there are 4 main reasons that I am trying to reach out to business owners, Debbie, and make sure that we connect with them and help them. The 4 main reasons that I'm thinking of personally, there's a business overhead expense insurance. It's a disability insurance product where it will reimburse expenses that you need to run your business if you're unable to work. If you become sick or injured, you can't go to work anymore, you can't be there, it will help pay utilities, it will help pay your insurance for the school, your payroll, your wages, real estate taxes, the rent for your property, for your business, things like that. And it's really not very expensive at all. I think it's important that small business owners know about that. Just in case. If you are really ambitious and you're willing or interested in looking at helping your employees or your staff with a retirement plan, we can help you with that. The plan design and monitoring, reporting it, and of course, managing that retirement plan for your people. Another thing that business owners especially really need to think about is their life insurance needs. Do you have enough? If you were to die, if you died yesterday, let's say that, because we know none of you did, or else you wouldn't be here. If you died yesterday, your family is left with your business and your business debts and your business bills. And is there enough in your life insurance to help cover all of that stuff? And finally, another thing that business owners can think of, a way to build goodwill with their staff, is to help provide education in finances for them. We could come in, I could come in and talk about how to build a solid foundation in their financial lives. And you get to say, oh, we brought in Michelle to help you learn about this. And they look at it as, you know, a goodwill gesture for them. So really, I mean, we are here to help you organize your finances, prepare for the unknowns, and look towards the future with confidence and be able to say, yes, if something happens to me, I know who my trusted contacts are. I know where my will is kept. I know that my trusted contacts know where my will is kept and that I've got my intentions aligned with my plans for the future, my finances. So if you have any questions about anything you see on this list, if you want to talk about business overhead expense insurance, a retirement plan for your staff, life insurance for yourself, or even if you want to help educate others, we are here for you. And my contact information is here. You can reach out to me. We also have a Facebook channel where we put a lot of these webinars. We do a lot of work in the special needs community. So a lot of our webinars are focused on that. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at any time. Like I said at the beginning, you will receive an email from us that has contact information for Debbie, for her school, for us at Consolidated Planning Group. And we always offer a free consultation, initial consultation. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Debbie, do you have anything else? I don't see any other questions or anything in chat.
I just was going to add, Michelle, that we used a process to help people when I was doing college planning, but then several of my clients used it to build their small businesses, which was called Bank on Yourself, using whole life to fund, and then they could use their money to build their business. And would you be able to help some of the small businesses set that up?
Yes, absolutely.
That's a fantastic program. Once you understand that, oh my gosh. So, well, great. If small businesses out there, just talk to Michelle about that, because it is a fantastic way to really bank on yourself and keep more of the money in-house. So definitely reach out to her.
You know, reinvesting in yourself is so important. We talk about investing in other companies, but you know, having money and planning and growing your money so that you can reinvest in yourself and your own business is so very important. So thank you again, Debbie. I have really enjoyed your talk today. And thank you everybody for coming and joining us today. I hope to hear from you soon. I'm sure that Debbie would love to hear from you. Any questions or comments, you can still send to us once this webinar is over. I would still love to hear from you. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time. Bye-bye.